You know how sometimes you have to hear something multiple times before you truly get it? You know, you hear it the first time, you think that's nonsense. That doesn't apply to me, or that will never work. But then you get older, you get wiser, or maybe you're just in a different phase of your life where suddenly it suits, or you hear somebody say it, or you read it a different way, and suddenly it clicks for you and it all makes sense. That's how it was for me with this piece of advice. I heard it years ago, I've heard it multiple times over the years, and I always thought, like, no, why are you peddling this nonsense? It just doesn't work. But then I reread about it recently and had my light bulb moment. So want to talk about it? Let's go. Hi guys, it's Laura and I help you live a simpler, happier, more spacious life. And this is episode 2 of the Dream Life Diaries, where I am documenting my journey towards my dream life. And this piece of advice has got me one step closer. And it all has to do with my vegetable patch. Now, I actually wanted to be recording this outside right by my vegetable patch, but the neighbors are having some construction work done. So between the noise and just the people who would be staring at me, that's out. So here we are, but my vegetable patch, you know, over the winter just becomes completely overgrown, lots of weeds. I don't really like gardening, to be honest. So every spring I put it off and it just becomes this complete jungle and I never want to tackle it at all. But because I am trying to create this dream life for myself, and because I would like to be a little bit more self-sufficient, not entirely self-sufficient, but I was really dedicated this year, really wanted to plant some things and to try and learn to grow a few different vegetables. I talked in episode 1 about the many problems I have with this whole idea of manifestation and the secret and the law of attraction and all that, and kind of living as if you already had the life you wanted, and the myriad of problems that throws up. However, I do feel that in certain circumstances that it can be beneficial because you're just getting some practice in. That way, by the time this dream life of mine comes around, which is to, you know, buy some land, build a house on it, and be a little bit more self-sufficient, I will actually have the skills and the knowledge to do that, and I won't be starting from scratch. I will already know how to grow a few vegetables, etc. But this really messy vegetable patch was a big obstacle for me because I did not want to do it. I didn't want to clear it out. But I knew if I didn't, then I wasn't going to be learning, and I was going to be pushing my dream life further and further away. Like I was just kicking the can down the road. That is when this little nugget of advice finally came to fruition in my life. I finally understood what it meant and how it could benefit me. Okay, so let's talk about the advice and why I always thought it was ridiculous until recently. The advice was, if there's something that you are putting off, if there's something that you dread doing, simply do it for 1 minute, or take the first tiny step. Kind of get yourself ready, and you don't actually have to do the thing, but just prep for it. Here's a good example. If you want to take up the habit of running on a regular basis, all you have to do is put on your running shoes. That's it. That is your only commitment. Now, as somebody who hates running, every time I heard this advice, and that's the example that was regularly used, I always thought, okay, but putting on my running shoes is not going to make me want to go running. So that is just a complete waste of time. However, here's what I realized. While putting on your running shoes is not going to make you go running, it might not make you want to go running, it does make you more likely to go running. And you might have to put them on every day for a month before you finally actually get out the door and just do the thing. But it's still one more time a month than you would have done it otherwise. It is better to give yourself more of an opportunity to do the thing, to kind of increase your chances of doing the thing, than doing absolutely nothing. Here's where my vegetable patch comes in. Like I said, I had been putting this off. It had turned into complete chaos out there, and I did not want to go anywhere near it. But one day I was out there with the dog, she was running around, and I thought, you know what, I'll just go over and I will take out one weed, or I'll pick up one little stick or leaf or something, and that's it. That is my only commitment to this job. I don't have to tackle the whole thing. It doesn't have to become this like major operation or anything. Just pick up 1 or 2 little things. Make some progress. It's a hard one for me because as a perfectionist, I'm very much an all or nothing person. It's either like get in there and get that job done from start to finish, or completely ignore that job. I pretend it doesn't exist, but that's the problem, isn't it? Again, it comes back to that, you know, putting on your running shoes, and maybe you only go out running one time a month, but it's still better than not doing anything at all. It's still better than not getting closer to your goals. But I realized with this vegetable patch, it was either take it slow and steady, or it just wouldn't get done. And wouldn't you know it, before I knew what was happening, the whole vegetable patch was done. I had it all cleared out, all weeded, because once I started, the motivation was there. I made it more likely to continue, which I did. First, I just picked up one or two little sticks, and then I had the tool there for just kind of like turning the soil. So of course I was like, you know what, let me just use this once or twice. Let me pull out this big weed. I'll get right down in there, twist out the roots, pull it out. And yeah, then I just kept going. So while starting something does obviously not guarantee that you are going to finish it, it doesn't guarantee that you're going to continue to do it, it does get you in the right mindset. It prepares you for getting the job done. Like subconsciously, I think you are mentally more able to accept that this is something that you could do. Sometimes even the process of showing up, even if you're doing absolutely nothing but just sitting there, like sitting in the pile that you've been meaning to declutter, or sitting in the space that you've been meaning to tidy up, even if you do nothing for several days, maybe your subconscious is working on solutions to how you could overcome a particular problem or a particular obstacle, or whatever that block is that is stopping you from making progress. For me, it was simply, this is a big job and I don't enjoy it, and it's not something that I want to tackle because it's going to take a long time, it's going to be messy, dirty work. But simply showing up was how I actually got stuck in. Starting doesn't guarantee that you will finish, but I can guarantee that if you don't start, you will never finish. So all of a sudden, this tiny piece of advice that I always thought was terrible got me one step closer to the life that I'm trying to create for myself. I got that vegetable patch weeded and completely cleared out, and it was such a huge victory for me. I really felt like now I can kind of step into this future a little bit more. I can learn what I need to learn and get myself closer. Obviously then the next part of the process was actually doing the planting. And there was a little bonus surprise for me, because while I was weeding and while I was pulling everything up, I actually found some vegetables in there. Like there was a little harvest in there. I had no idea, but I had planted some stuff not last year, but the year before. And you know, I had like got some tiny little things out of it, nothing to write home about or anything. But when I was digging up the vegetable patch, I found a few little potatoes, I found a few little spring onions, and it was a nice little reward. And it reminded me that sometimes work that you have put in years ago can prove fruitful way down the line. Even if at the time you thought this wasn't working, sometimes your efforts can pay off in the most unexpected ways at the most unexpected times. And that was a really lovely little lesson to learn. Seeds that you plant today, the work that you do today, okay, it might not bear fruit tomorrow, it might not bear fruit next month, it might not bear fruit as quickly as you would like, but someday down the line you could see a little reward for all your hard work. So apart from just even like weeding the whole vegetable patch, this was a lovely little boost for me. It made me really want to get in there and start planting and start learning how I could better grow certain things. So that was the next phase then, actually going out, buying some soil for the patch, you know, topping it up, and then planting stuff. I want to have some land around me, spread out a little bit, and yeah, be able to provide for my family in more ways than just, you know, working for a paycheck. I will say I generally do not enjoy gardening, but it is rewarding to see the fruits of your labor. Like I talked about, it is rewarding to put work into something and actually see the benefit at the end of it. So the next time I was doing my shopping, I picked up some bags of soil. I also started chopping up some potatoes and letting those cure, letting those dry so that I could plant those. Again, it was all about kind of taking those steps, starting the process, just doing something to get me closer. Now, I kept it very straightforward. I only focused on a small number of things, and those were things that I actually eat on a regular basis. Potatoes, being Irish, those had to be part of it. I have grown those with minimal success in the past. They were part of the little bounty that I found in there. Yeah, I knew I wanted some of those. After that, it was mostly salady things. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that I eat a salad sandwich pretty much every single day for lunch. So part of that then was spring onions, which honestly, those are very easy to grow, I find, even for someone who is not quite green thumbed like I am. But what I will do is pop them in a glass of water in the kitchen, let them grow up a little bit. I have had more success doing it that way. So this was one of the lessons that I learned this time around with planting. So some of them I just planted straight out into the vegetable patch, and they're not growing as well as had I put them in water first. I also had some scraps, so I just had an onion that I chopped the top off, and I figured why not give that a go, throw it in there, see if anything comes of it. And I had some shallots that I knew I wasn't going to use for cooking, so I put those out as well. Again, just kind of like a fingers crossed, winging a prayer type situation. Again, all part of the learning process. Something else that I wanted to learn was whether I could grow tomatoes from seeds. I've previously grown tomatoes by buying a plant, like a small plant at the store, and then just planting that out. And I had great success with that. I had a lot of tomatoes 2 years ago, but I wanted to see if I could just grow them from seeds. So I got some seeds. I had put them in water to just kind of wash them up a little bit, get the mush off them. But when I laid them out on paper towels to dry off, I found that I couldn't actually remove them from the paper towels, or it was just like a very tedious, awkward job. So what I ended up doing was just planting them, paper towel and all. Is that the best way to do it? I don't know, but like I said, I'm learning, I'm trying things, I'm experimenting to see what works and what doesn't. And then I left a space for spinach. Now I will say I had grand plans to actually plant some spinach seeds there, but it's a few weeks now and I still haven't done that. I haven't found any seeds, I haven't bought any seeds, I haven't gone out of my way to get any seeds. I've left the space there for them, and hopefully I will find some spinach seeds soon. But yeah, right now that spot is just sitting empty. So like I said, it's been a few weeks now. Some things are going great, some things are going not so great. And one of the obstacles, I have to say, completely unexpected. I did not foresee this, but we have a little birdhouse out there that is right beside the vegetable patch. Now it has been out there for a while and it is very weather worn, it is very beat up, the sun has completely warped it. So we were actually going to get rid of it, but then we discovered there was a nest in there, and when we looked a little bit more closely, not only was there a nest in there, but there were eggs in the nest. So a little mama bird has been in there pretty much 24/7. Like obviously she leaves to get food for herself and stuff, but that has made it a little bit more tricky because I don't want to disturb her. So I haven't been going to my vegetable patch nearly as often as I would like. 2 years ago when I was doing it, I was out there every morning watering, whereas now because she's there, I don't want to be going near it and disturbing her. So I've kind of just been letting the rain sort things out, but it hasn't been raining every day. So yeah, the vegetable patch is not getting as much water as it probably should, or as much as I would like to give it. But anyway, here's what's been happening in the few weeks since I planted stuff. My potatoes, pretty much nothing. I don't know what's happening there. I've had success with potatoes in the past, but I'm seeing absolutely nothing with these potatoes. Really not entirely sure why. So that's a little mystery to solve. The spring onions, like I said, because I planted them straight out rather than trying to grow them in water first, they are growing, but they're growing a lot more slowly than they would have had I started them off in water. The other onions, I'm seeing absolutely nothing there either, but that was one of those just like, I'll try it, see what happens. And I wasn't tied to any sort of outcome there. It was just a little experiment that did not go the way I had planned or the way I had wanted. The next one then was the carrots. I am seeing one tiny little sprout with the carrots. I do know that carrots are particularly sensitive. Like once you plant them, you can't move them, you can't transplant them somewhere else. So I knew once they went in the ground, they had to stay there. And I knew that if they were messed with at all, that would damage them. Now I don't know if the dog maybe got in and just kind of like snuffled around and that kind of, because I did initially see a few sprouts, whereas now we're down to one sprout. So yeah, I don't know if the dog maybe got in and just messed them up a little bit, or maybe there was like an animal or a bird or something that got in there. But from the few sprouts that I initially had, I'm down to one. I don't hold out like a huge amount of hope for it, but you never know. If I get one carrot out of it, it will still be overall a success and I will still have learned something from it. The tomatoes. Okay, I had really no expectations here because I was growing them from seed. I had never done that before. Honestly, I didn't even know if that could be done just from like store-bought tomatoes. I especially didn't know because I still had the paper towels planted with them, and obviously I was hesitant because the paper towels, there's some form of like bleach and stuff in them. But I am seeing some tiny little shoots there, like not many, but still. So if I actually get tomatoes out of this, I will be very happy. Speaking of things growing, I went out just this morning and the mama bird saw me out there and she flew away. She doesn't fly far. She flies to like the fence or a tree or something and like watches me. She keeps her beady little eyes on me. But I just peeked over at her nest, see how the eggs were doing, and there are actually little baby birds in there now. Listen, I have no idea what type of birds they are. I think they're finches, but I have no clue. But they're tiny little balls of fluff. Our garden back here is some sort of like Disney wonderland. I don't know what it is, but like we've got a pond back there, so there are fish in the pond. I find them mesmerizing. I love looking out at them. I have like named them and everything. We got a lot of birds, obviously. We've got squirrels. I've seen the odd chipmunk. We have deer, lots of rabbits. It's really lovely, and that is one of the things that I definitely want to incorporate into my future home. Like I would love to have a pond, even if it's man-made, which this one definitely is, but I think it just attracts a lot of nature, and it's been really wonderful to kind of sit out and just watch the fish or watch the birds or whatever wildlife happens to be scampering around. It's another reason why I think sometimes it is important to live as if you were in your dream life, in your ideal scenario, because I think as you go, you learn all of these things. Like had we not moved here, I never would have known that I wanted a pond, but it's just by growing and learning and experiencing life that you figure out what you want and what you don't want. And sometimes you have to actually create that for yourself. Like you have to go out and weed your vegetable patch and grow some things and like experiment and throw some paper towels in there to figure out what works and what doesn't. I think if you were dropped in your ideal scenario with no previous experience, you're not going to get the full benefit of it. You're not going to enjoy it because you just don't know how. If you dropped me in a homestead right now, I would have no idea how to properly grow vegetables so that they would actually be bountiful, so that I could actually use them to provide for my family and to cook meals out of them. I would certainly have no idea how to raise chickens or anything, which is something that I definitely do want to do down the line. But without putting in this effort and doing all of these experiments up front, by the time I get to my dream life, I would have absolutely no idea. I would like squander that opportunity. So I'm preparing myself. I'm doing as much as I can now so that when that time comes, I'm ready to embrace it and I'm ready to get the most out of it. It's all well and good sitting back and setting goals for yourself and thinking that this is what I want for my life, but that's 5 years down the line. That's the long-term plan. That's not how I'm living right now. But someday I will get there. I know you have to start preparing and working towards it right now, or it will never happen. Or like I said, if it does suddenly happen and suddenly it lands in your lap, you're not going to be prepared for it. You're going to waste that opportunity because you just don't have the skills or the knowledge or the know-how. Now I'm trying to think, if the perfect piece of land were to crop up, if I were to randomly spot it somewhere, I would be in a much better place to actually snag it, because number one, we've started saving money towards that. Number two, I am starting to live the life and learn the lessons that I need to learn in order to look after a piece of land and to grow things and harvest things and be that little bit more self-sufficient. I definitely don't think I will manifest it, but I know I will work for it. And then when it happens, because it will happen, when that opportunity presents itself, and it could be 5 years down the line, it could be in 5 days time, you just don't know what the universe is going to throw at you. But whatever happens, whenever it happens, I will be ready. So don't automatically discard pieces of advice that you hear that you think aren't relevant to you. They may not be right now, but sometime in the future, you never know. Definitely do not underestimate the power of starting something. Again, it doesn't guarantee that you will finish, but it does guarantee that you are closer to finishing. One step doesn't get the job done, but it makes it more likely that you will take other steps that will. And I am slowly but surely creating my dream life one step at a time. If you're also trying to create your dream life and you're thinking, I would like to keep this motivation train rolling, then check out this playlist right here, full of inspiration. It is going to help you get that ball rolling. And until next time, go raibh míle maith agaibh. Agus feicimid sibh go luath. Slán.